Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahushua, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahushua, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahushua. Call Layam La, Adonai Yahweh, Bashem Shamlak Yahushua, Bashem Kakadash. Abundance to the apostles and elders, great millstone, peace, I teach, and hope for that. Shalom. And I made title of this video, Black Lives Matter, BLM is a scam. So pretty much like through the spirit, I just want to bring out this article and another article I have in mind as well. And then, Lord willing, I could just bring out, some precepts or some scriptures to make, you hopeful, like edified. And it shows right here the Black Lives Matter scam. It says this was posted on January 31st, 2022, 12 a.m. by Washington Examiner. It says the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation did not raise a single penny for the first 6 years of its existence. It couldn't. Foundation wasn't even registered with the Internal Revenue Service, in other words, IRS, as a charity. But after George Floyd's murder in May of 2020, tens of millions of dollars were given to this organization from major corporations and celebrities, and now no one even knows where all that money has gone. Even worse, there doesn't appear to be anyone in charge of the organization who can provide the information. Founded in 2013 after the death of Trayvon Martin, Black Lives Matter was little more than a hashtag and a website that loosely coordinated activism in communities across the country to end quote, intervene in violence inflicted on black communities by the state and vigilantes. For years, there did not appear to be a lot of outside resources directed to the organization, but that all changed in 2020. Unable to accept the avalanche of money sent its way, BLM channeled donations through thousands current and the Tides Foundation until the IRS approved its application for nonprofit status in December 2020. Around that time, thousands current transferred $66.5 million to BLM, a transaction personally signed off on BLM co-founder Patrisse Cullors. Cullors later issued the organization's first ever in quote impact report in February 2021, claiming that the organization had raised over $90 million in 2020, spent $8.4 million on operating expenses, and given out $21.7 million to local BLM chapters and affiliated organizations. But these were just top-line numbers in a flashy communications product. No details were given on who was specifically paid what. Just 3 months later, Cullors left BLM, claiming that she wanted to focus on other projects. She adamantly denied charges that she left the organization due to media reports that she had recently purchased millions of dollars worth of real estate for herself. When Cullors left BLM, she announced that activists Makani Themba and Monifa Bandeli would replace her as senior executives, but Themba and Bandeli later released a statement that they, in quote, were not able to come to an agreement with the acting leadership council about our scope and work authority. Asked who is now in charge of BLM, Themba told the Washington Examiner, and quote, we never actually started in the position, so we never received any detailed information. Donors to BLM should have received some much needed insight into how their money was being spent this November, when BLM was required by law to file a Form 990 tax return. It is now February, and there is no evidence that BLM ever filed its form. Charity Watch executive director Laurie Styron described BLM as a, in quote, a giant ghost ship full of treasure drifting in the night with no captain, no discernible crew, and no clear direction. According to Candid, a website devoted to tracking nonprofit donations, groups like BLM, which claim to be devoted to a racial, in quote, equity, have raised over $25 billion since George Floyd's death. What exactly have these billions accomplished? Are black lives any safer? Quite the opposite. Thanks to activism from groups like BLM, police budgets have been slashed in major cities across the country, and the number of arrests has plunged by 24%. As police were being defunded, murder rates skyrocketed, with black lives hardest hit. In 2019, before the in quote defund the police movement, 7,777 black people were murdered, making up 53.5% of all homicide victims. That was already bad, but in 2020, both of those numbers rose. 9,941 black people were murdered the year George Floyd died, accounting for 55.8% of all murders. That is an additional 2,000 black lives lost to violent crime last year. In contrast, only 60 unarmed men were killed by police in 2020, and only 18 of those were black. The people who donated to BLM deserve to know where their money went. So do the people who live in communities that have been devastated by violence. Congress should investigate, and perhaps it will starting next January. Yeah. So, it goes to show you that, like, all these people that's putting their money towards BLM, claiming that Black Lives Matter, huh? You gotta really question yourself. Do these lives really matter? Because if you're spending all this money, you're not knowing where your money's going to, and all this money that you're spending on is actually going to, those co-founders, mainly that they're using the money for their personal benefits. They're not using the money for the to better the livelihoods of, you know, let's just say you so-called black people out there, which are you know, you Negroes, you so-called Negroes, which are Israelites, for the most part. They're not using that money for y'all. Here goes another article. It says secret 6 million home has allies and critics skeptical of BLM Foundation finances. April 7, 2022, 5 p.m. And it says NPR's Ailsa Chang speaks with Sean Campbell of Columbia's journalism school about his report detailing how Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation bought a $6 million home with donation funds. And guess where they bought the home? Most likely in a white people's neighborhood, which, pretty much that's what they did. And, they're using this money just basically for their own benefits. They're not using this money for, helping out you so-called black people, as they claim they are. And Elisa Chang hosts a group of Black Lives Matter leaders are facing questions about the purchase of a $6 million home in Southern California. It was bought with donations made to the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation, also known as BLM-GNF. This transaction is raising questions about how the social justice organization is using donations. Sean Campbell wrote a story about the home that appeared in New York Magazine this week. He's an investigative journalist and adjunct professor at Columbia Journalism School and joins us now. Welcome, Sean Campbell. Thanks for having me on, Elsa. I really appreciate it. All right, so let me see. I don't want to pretty much bring up too much. So, but let me see. So they said they even claimed that what Chang was saying was, he even claimed that what you call it, that they pretty much received about for the BLM GNF, they claimed they received about like 90 million in donations in 2020 and spent about 30 million of that of February of 2021. And it seems like they're just spending that money on themselves. But with that being said, I'll just bring out some scriptures, and Lord willing, I'll be edified. I hope for elect. So scripture saying Proverbs 28 verse 22 that He that hasteth to be rich have an evil eye, and considereth not that poverty shall come upon him. Right. And you see, the thing about like BLM is that it's founded by like three the co-founders is actually, three so-called black women that are pretty much witches, and they're lesbians as well, and of course feminists. So pretty much they're being used by obviously Esau to basically cause a lot of confusion and things of that nature. And one way they're confusing the masses as well is they're making these people think that like BLM is to raise awareness for violence, right, within black communities, to try to make things better for so-called black people, but it's not. you know these projects are still in bad conditions, where black people living in, like, basically they're the conditions they're in is not getting better, it's only getting worse, and they're not doing anything um for the better of our people. They're just making that shit worse. And yet you have stupid people that are willing to support the Black Lives Matter Foundation, and they don't realize that that money is not being used for them. That those co-founders, they're spending the money for themselves. Here goes another article I brought out to the spirit. It says, a Black Lives Matter co-founder used $840,000 of the group's fund to her brother for security services. So that's Patrice Cullors. That's one of the co-founders of Black Lives Matter. It says the co-founder of the Black Lives Matter Foundation paid her brother $840,000 per tax documents. He was hired to help with security as organizers didn't trust other firms with the matter. The tax filing details how the foundation spent much of the $9 million it received in donations. So yeah. It said according to the tax filing, the organization also paid more than $969,000 for live event design and media production to Trap Heels LLC, a company founded by Damon Turner, who fathered a child with Patrice Cullors. Let me see. So yeah, and it shows you on the 96. It shows you on the $6 million that it was spent on a city home in Los Angeles. And it also said the filing stated that BLM invested $32 million in 42 stocks, which organizers told the AP would help to ensure that the foundation's work continue in the future. And let me see. And it says BLM spent around $37.7 million in fiscal year ending June 30, 2021, including the payments of Trap Heels and Cullors protecting per the tax filing. And the documents show that about $26 million was used on grants to organization, local chapters, and families. This included grants of $2.3 million to the nonprofit organization, Living Through Giving Foundation, $1.4 million to the Michael O.D. Brown We Love Our Sons and Daughters Foundation, $200,000 to the Trayvon Martin Foundation. And it says Patrice Cullors, who stepped down as the foundation executive director in May last year, did not take any financial compensation for her work in the organization the following show, which that could pretty much potentially be capped in a way because, pretty much they really are spending a lot of this money for not really for the community. They really are spending it on themselves for the most part. So scripture saying Jeremiah chapter 5 verse 26, for among my people are found wicked men. In this sense, we're talking about women here, which, through the spirit, that all wickedness is little to the wickedness of a woman, because the co-founders of Black Lives Matter are three so-called black women. So it says they lay wait as he that setteth snares, they set a trap, they catch men. As a cage is full of birds, so are their houses full of deceit. Therefore, they are become great and waxing rich. They are waxing fat. They shine. Yeah. They overpass the deeds of the wicked. They judge not the cause of the fatherless, yet they prosper, and the right of the needy do they not judge. Exactly. So these people aren't really too concerned about the you know, the welfare of so-called black people. They ain't really concerned about the welfare of Jake, man. You know, and it shows you right there and then that this is why people gotta understand what they are getting involved in with these foundations and these organizations. Like, they gotta really understand that just because you see that, you know, our people are, let's just say, co-founders of such and such of an organization or so, you gotta really see what they doing with that money, you know. And they're not improving anything where you know, in the so-called black people's communities, they're not doing it. You know, it's like our people so wicked, they doing worse than Esau himself in terms of their wickedness, man. And the scriptures say all wickedness is little to the wickedness of a woman. So you already know these women are all wicked as hell. And this is the last scripture I'll bring out, Proverbs chapter 3, verse 31. It says, envy thou not the oppressor, and choose none of his ways. And exactly. And one of his ways will be considered as Jeremiah chapter 5, like, you know, going into how, you know, how our people will pretty much scam their own people. How they go as far as, like, using, you know, donation scams. They go as far as trying to use this get rich quick scams as well to pretty much, like, you know, gain a profit off of it while getting their people kind of fucked over in a way financially, you know. And that's what Jake does, you know. That's pretty much like a dirty, grimy tactic that Jake does to get money, you know, to get rich. Like I brought out in the scripture where it says that he that hasteth to be rich hath an evil eye, you know. Because of course they're gonna do it to, like, people that are ignorant of that, you know, tactic, and they don't understand that BLM is used as a tactic to pretty much, you know, kind of get the public to just give money to the foundation, and those co-founders of the foundation is using the money for their self, you know. And they're just capping and lying about how they hardly using the money for themselves. They're capping about that shit, you know, because the real way to find out how they're using the money for themselves, they gotta really, you know, report everything that they're doing with the IRS, and they gotta pretty much show the public. They shouldn't have no problem or take a long time to show the public what they're doing with that money, but yet people don't research these things. So showing you that, like the scripture said, the simple believeth every word, you know. So they're gonna believe, you know, what pretty much, like, whatever those co-founders are telling them. They're gonna believe in those advertisements, the, you know, the bullshit, the okie dokes they're gonna go for, right? And yeah, man, and that's the thing when it's coming to Jake. They pretty much, like, they envy their oppressor and they choose the ways of their oppressors, trying to go as far as getting rich, you know. And they follow that that saying, you know, when it's the scripture will say that, you know, he that hasteth to be rich have an evil eye. So they follow after that whole lifestyle of get rich or die trying, you know, that 50 Cent type of, you know, mentality, you know, because he had a movie that's named that, you know, get rich or die trying. And that's a real you know, evil lifestyle that leads to death, you know. And scriptures also say, like, within that same scripture that I brought out, that how he that hates to be rich have an evil eye, and that, you know, that they don't know that poverty shall come upon them. Yeah, you know, very soon, like, you know, these same people that that are funding this Black Lives Matter, they're gonna come to the realization that they're not um pretty much like getting their communities to be, let's just say, in a better position, that you know the situation and that black people are in is not getting better. So what they're going to end up doing is they're going to pretty much probably end up going into what you call it, in that neighborhood with that co-founder, wherever she had her house, and they're going to probably just go in there, up in there, and raid that house. You know, they just may very well do some shit like that, because eventually, Jake is gonna get roused up in the end, in these latter times, and they're gonna be coming after you, you wicked ass Jakes that been screwing them over financially, you know, especially like these Christian churches and these other foundations that claim that they try to like Black Lives Matter, that claim they trying to support for so-called black people, and they're not. So that's something that y'all gonna be looking forward to very soon. But with that, I hope I made the lesson edifying. Let's give all glory, praise, and honor to Adonai, Yahweh, Bashem, Shamalaka, Yahweh, Shah, Bashem, Kakadash, Labanas to the Apostle and Elsewhere, Millstone, Peace, Citation, Hope for Elect, Yahweh, Bashem, Shabbat, Bakashash, Shalak, Wayam, Adawam, Wakawayam, Wa, Ababa, Shalom.